This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so my setup is a little bit cumbersome, just to let you know, so I've got to go back and forth on here. The first thing we want to do is approve the minutes from our last meeting. Do we have a motion to do that? Great, Kathy, thank you. And second, we have a second from Mary. Great, thank you. One thing I've been amazed by is how Randy can keep track of everybody. I went to a bigger screen today to make sure I got everybody, and I think I do. Any comments, amendments, discussion about the minutes from last meeting? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes for the last meeting, please signify. And any opposed? Terrific. Okay, that passes. The next item, Newfield presentation of the work completion schedule. Al, have you going to take over from here?
Scott, we can't hear you.
But you look great, Scott. In the meantime, we have someone on the phone. Could you please identify yourself?
This is Adam Levitas with Colliers.
Thank you, Adam. Al, are you waiting for Scott to tune in?
Yes. I was actually trying to get a hold of the GoToMeeting link, and I didn't see that come through, so I'm just tapping in via phone for now.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Al, I have you as the next item on our agenda.
Okay.
About your the site work completion schedule for the summer and fall.
Oh, gotcha. Scott should have the plan that we came up with for the parent drop-off. So they would have to share that to the screen.
It looks like he said he doesn't have the plan.
Al, can you pull it up on your screen or email it to me and I'll pull it up?
Yep, hold on.
Well, I vote for in-person meetings. I don't know about anybody else, but
So Al, you gonna pull it up or email it to me?
Yeah, I have to, hold on, I have to log into Newfield to do it.
Scott, is that you as our caller too?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, very well.
Okay, good. I got the speaker off on my computer, so apologize for the technical difficulty, but we'll muddle through. If we're waiting for Al to pull that up, why don't we go ahead onto one of the next agenda? We can just circle back on that. Because I think the next was discussion of tree line considerations and some of the discussions we've been having there. Okay. Terrific. And before I get going, I do want to just, the gentleman, Adam from Colliers, he just noted, I've spoken to Randy, and I did speak to Chris about this yesterday. Adam is a new person that we're going to bring on board to the project. We've been trying to balance workload a little bit more. And, Felicia, from an equitable standpoint, was overloaded. So we looked at who we had available, and we're very excited to have Adam come aboard. I think he's going to be a great addition to the project. Certainly Ken and myself and Doug Goulet, our field rep, are going to remain unchanged, and I don't think that the committee or the team is going to see any drop off in any way, shape, or form in overall project support. But just wanted to let everybody know that Adam's a new face. Where Felicia and I are going to be working with him to transition him in, and so I'm going to be stepping up in the short term, take a little bit more of an active role. But again, it'll you shouldn't see any change on the support. So welcome aboard, Adam. If I can share my screen, I'm going to bring up, if I can, Chris, I'll bring up the letter, the proposal letter from the arborist. Okay. So can everybody see the screen? Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Can you see the? Maybe it's easier if I put it up on my other screen.
Oh, I can see it.
All right. I'm just having problems with GoToMeeting. Anyway, just to let everyone know, I'm sure you're aware the tree clearing has been completed as part of the base contract for the construction job. So Al and his team have completed their work. And there's been some concerns, both voiced from the neighbors and I think from a couple committee members that have been out past the site recently, both in regards to the longevity of some of the trees and that some of the clearing may have gotten in or close to some of the root structure of a few of the other trees. So there's been a number of meetings on site that actually Felicia had coordinated, and we received a proposal, and I believe this Arborist Tree Care Services is actually someone that the town has contracted with in the past and has a current proposal in the works to assist the town in evaluating the trees. So we had reached out for a proposal, and what this would do is this would give us a report and a risk assessment for all remaining trees on the site, excluding the trees involved with the current ropes course. What this will do is this will give us a report that we can use with the state, and then we'll have to talk about how we want to potentially bid out these services with a report. And certainly if that report is noting that these trees are a safety concern, we feel that this work would be reimbursed. We've just got to make sure that because it's going to be over a $10,000 threshold on the construction of tree removal, that we either potentially use, I believe, the contract that the town has in place, if that would be acceptable to the state, or we might have to rebid the tree clearing services. So there is a proposal out in front of the committee this evening for $5,270, and that would be in order to get this gentleman procured and get them working, get that report put together so we can determine what trees do need to be taken down. We've been coordinated this with Al, and we've been told by Al that this will not affect the overall project and the overall construction of the building itself. We'll be certain that whatever company is hired to remove these trees, we're going to coordinate very closely with Al and his team at Newfield to make sure that there are no construction impacts and that all the work proceeds safely. So with that, any questions?
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So this is $5,700 just to have the arborist come out and look at the trees?
Well, he's gonna inspect them all, provide a report, and then mark which trees need to come out. Yes, correct.
Mary, you still have a question?
No, that was my same question. This total just reflects an inspection.
Correct. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is it just an inspection of those trees that line the property where it abuts Pinewoods Lane?
No, it's all of, in essence, all of the remaining trees on the property, excluding the ropes course.
Anyone else have a question? In that case, Scott, or go ahead, Chris.
It seems like a lot of money. I know we've already got this person under contract, but who took the trees down? And that we already took down, and could they provide such an inspection since they've already collected a boatload of money?
Well, that's a question for Al. There was, and I'm not sure if they're an arborist involved with them. There was an initial quote to take down individual trees, and I believe that quote was $5,000 a tree. So it was quite expensive. And again, I think we need a report, or we need something official that we can file with the state when this change order goes through that justifies the additional expense to the project.
Scott, oh, go ahead, Tony.
Yep, Tony.
Just to clarify, the reason for pulling somebody in is that there have been questions about the appropriateness of the removal that has already been undertaken?
No, the removal that was undertaken meets the requirements of the specifications, what was shown on the drawings. But there's a concern of the remaining trees now that a number of those trees are exposed. They were, a grouping together that, the trees would have helped reinforce in high winds. In that, I believe that the extent of clearing, which was done correctly, is in some cases close to some of the trees that were slated to remain. So there's a concern that the root structures may be slightly compromised in those trees, as well as age, and a concern that some of those trees may start, coming down in the near future.
Hey, Scott,
So the idea is that there may be more trees that need to be removed rather than fewer?
No, this study would assess, again, all the trees around the perimeter of the school up to the property line and tag them and make a recommendation for removal. So, hopefully this captures a review and potential removal of all of the trees that were outside of the original construction line.
Okay. So it's an expansion of the removal rather than a critique of the removal.
Correct. No, the removal is done, and that's they've got the site cleared and grubbed, and the site's looking good. So no, this isn't anything as a follow up on anything that Newfield has done or their contractor. This is just to look at the existing trees to remain that were slated to remain. And as I stated, there are some concern about root structure, the trees themselves, and that some of those concerns were also expressed by the neighbors.
Thank you.
Scott, that's what I wanted to make sure. This is really initiated by neighborhood concern. Is that correct?
It was one of the driving factors. It was also, originally brought up or questioned, by Felicia when looking at the trees, and had posed the question, would there be an additional concern? And I think Jeff was trying to chime in. I was not able to attend the site meetings when these were discussed in the field, but I believe Jeff was on site. So Jeff, if you've got anything further to add.
Yes, I think the initial concern was there was a neighbor that was concerned that there were some fairly large trees that they were concerned would fall on their house. So we met on the site there, and we tagged 5 trees, large trees, to be removed. And then the tree warden for the town was going to come back and clear some of the other ones that were very close to the property line on the neighbor's side, because the mobilized tree removal people that were on the site via Newfield weren't able to get their very large equipment all the way back in there without potentially taking out a bunch more trees. So we wanted to keep some maples, young maples, and we wanted to be selective. So That was the initiation of it. But then there were some concerns from some other neighbors and somebody from the committee that maybe there's a larger issue here. So then we met again. And then if we can share the screen, I have a drawing that was given for the arborist and the tree warden to use. Let's see, which one? Did I pick the wrong one? Oh, here, I'll just move this over. Can everybody see that? So basically the issue is these trees are like 100 feet tall. And just to be safe, given that we have outdoor classrooms, activities for kids and children, we just felt that it would, you know, Felicia, Colliers, and TSKB, the whole group, everybody out there, including the tree warden, said, let's just be safe. Let's go through, we'll assess 100 feet back from anywhere there's a child or a teacher that could potentially be in the way. So we did a dash line here. I did this drawing with our landscape people, and this is what they're going to use to go and assess the remaining trees. It's 100-foot setback from the pathway or from the edge of the building, depending on where the activities are. So that zone there is the area that they're going to be re-looking at. And I requested that as they do their assessment, they go ahead and tag those trees so we don't have to have them back and do it again. And then they'll be ready to for taking them down.
Tony?
You know, the town has a tree warden. Has he been consulted about this?
He's been out there with us. We have him in the loop, and he is the one that's basically given us the advice. So we are not moving without his direction. And also this arborist, who you have the proposal now, they're both working very closely with Colliers and us to make sure this thing is done correctly.
I can confirm that Brian Lavoie has spent quite a bit of time on this site.
And Derek as well from the town, the engineer.
And Brian is not an arborist?
Brian is the tree warden.
Correct, is he not an arborist? In other words, could he perform this job?
I don't believe so.
I'm not aware of Brian's credentials. I don't believe so.
Okay. Yeah, because Brian had recommended. Well, he was the original arborist that gave us that initial handwritten, report on the trees and their longevity. But he was the one that was the. What's that? That was Rocco. Rocco. Yeah.
Chris, did you have a question still?
Yeah, I guess it's the same thing you're all asking. Why can't the town tree warden make this decision? I understand there's lots of different credentials, but you're making the assessment that tree roots may have been damaged with removal of trees. So err on the side of caution and take down those trees that you think might have been damaged, those 5 or 7 or whatever it is. Why do we have to hire somebody else?
Well, I think the extent is more than 5 to 7 trees. And again, there was some earlier on in discussions where there were trees closer to the property line as well, which have now been identified as a potential concern to the neighboring properties. I mean, we can go back and ask the town's tree warden. But I was under the impression that this request or this suggestion was funneled through the direction of that office.
The tree warden,
get an arborist.
That's correct, Scott. The tree warden would not be able to do this. That's why he suggested that the town arborist, who is Rocco, to do that assessment. So that's where we're at now.
Scott, you said a couple of times this is all but the trees that are in the ropes course. Jeff, could you point out the area where the ropes course is?
Well, they're going to be right here. They're going to be assessing this entire area here for including the trees in the ropes course.
Okay, because that would be the ones I would certainly think would be even more important.
I've expressed that to everybody, but we still need to look at them just for a safety concern. But everybody's aware that we would like to not go crazy with taking all these trees down, but safety's first. And Colliers has been hammering everybody on that point, which is absolutely correct.
Kelly?
Yeah, do we know when this is going to happen? Because around this time every year we have independently the school brings in somebody to assess the trees that are part of the ropes course. That's an annual requirement. So I'd rather not pay 2 people to do that.
Well, I
Well,
think, Kelly, if part
these are
of
two different things.
your
Yes.
review is looking at the safety of the ropes course itself, the structure of the ropes, the attachments, the bolts, the connections, I would think that review that you do on an annual basis has to do with the physical implementation of the ropes course and its overall safety.
That's true. That part has to happen, but they also do an assessment of the trees.
It doesn't matter how strong your bolts are if the trees aren't good enough to hold them up. So
No,
that's
understood.
look into. Steve, you had your hand up?
So wait
Yeah,
a minute, I
yes,
didn't get an answer. I'm sorry. When
Pardon?
might this assessment occur?
Well, I
Hopefully
think
as
we
soon
would
as
try
possible.
and get this. Yeah, we would try and even get this going, as soon as the committee approved the request, and then we would schedule the work.
Okay, thanks.
Steve?
I guess my first question is for Scott. I've been involved in a number of tree removal projects, but I've never had to do a report like this before. So is this fairly common and typical, like $5,700 for an assessment of this size?
I haven't done a lot of work, in this avenue either. We did review it with our construction field reps. They felt it was a fair cost. It's a considerable amount of work there are quite a number of trees. And again, I want to make sure that we have a report from a licensed arborist, because when this change order goes up to the state, we're going to need that, because we could be talking in, tens of thousands of dollars for additional tree removal, and capturing back the state's portion of that is going to be critical. So I think ensuring that we have a licensed individual providing us a report and identifying the additional trees that need to be removed is going to be paramount into making sure that we get reimbursement on this additional work.
And that leads me to my second question. $5,000 a tree sounds exceptionally high. So is this something we can put out to bid to try to get a better price on it? Or I guess, what the other part of this is, how is this impacting our timeline?
This will not impact the timeline. We do want to get the work done sooner than later, but this is not impacting the schedule or Newfield's ability to continue on with construction of the school. We don't want this to lag out, certainly. The 5,000, again, my understanding was that was a quote for taking down additional trees from the contractor that was on site doing the main tree removal. And yes, we felt that was excessive. So we would look to bid this work out and get a competitive bid on. And anything over $10,000, the state's going to require us to competitively bid it if it's a new contractor. And again, I don't think, no offense to Al and his team, but I think we want to get a separate price.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Ryan, should this not be okayed by the state, is there a way that the town could pick this up instead of it being part of the building costs? Park maintenance?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have a meeting with our team. And I have been brought in this discussion in terms of neighbor concerns about trees that were now exposed on Pinewoods Lane and that element of it. This wrinkle, has I have not, I guess, been more fully briefed on. So I'm gonna have to get back to you on that, Chris, and sit down and understand more what the needs are and what the in-house capacity is. I know that we do a lot of tree work in-house. We have an in-house tree crew, but I also know that, things can get complicated in a hurry. And I understand that there are reasons why, we, much like our facilities department, there's certain thresholds that we need outside help to take on additional projects. So I'm just not in a position where I can answer that right now, but I will be.
So with that said, then what I might suggest is, we can table this for this evening. I'll set up another meeting at the site, including Ryan and the tree warden, and we can try and clarify this scope and approach a bit further.
Well, with all due respect to everybody, I think it is pertinent that we get this assessment done by an official arborist who Rocco is. I think that would be the first step to get this moving.
Kathy, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Would the town be liable if, God forbid, one of these trees did fall on one of the local houses? And can anyone answer that one?
That's a question I would have to run by our town attorney. I'm not sure. Liability is often a gray area with a lot of interpretation, so.
Right.
On the other hand,
Go ahead, Tony.
if I were representing the homeowner, I would say you failed to have a certified arborist and you tried to do this cheap when you should have done it right. And, you know, I really believe in covering your ass on this kind of stuff. And I really think that this is one of those areas where hiring a certified person makes a lot of sense, and hiring the right people to take the trees down if they're needed makes a lot of sense.
And this is Charmaine. I'm assuming that if we were to absorb the cost on our end from town staff, that this might be a little bit of a challenge to try and get reimbursed from the state as far as this project is concerned. So I wasn't sure if the notion was to take it completely outside of the building project and not even try and submit it for reimbursement, or if you were just looking to try and move this along internally and still try and get it reimbursed.
No, in my mind, Charmaine, this would be an additional professional service that would be, passed through the project, which should qualify for reimbursement, and then bid out the tree work. And again, I would assume that would be reimbursable. We bid it out, get 3 bids, award to the lowest qualified bidder. That would be reimbursed by the state.
Right, all of that is clean. I'm just trying to go back to the original ask about having it done internally. If the committee's expectation was that the town would then pass on the cost associated with that exercise to the building committee. I'm just trying to get a sense for people's thinking.
So Charmaine, are you suggesting then that Kelly's idea of possibly piggybacking or having that contractor extend their scope of work is not financially the way to go?
Well, maybe I misunderstood what her objective was. And if back to what Scott just said, the way he presented it is very clean and direct. There's little opportunity for question from the state as to what the work is, what the objective of the work is as it's tied to this project. When we start having an expansion of the work to cover some things that is not tied to necessarily the project that was approved by the state, that makes it a little messier, I guess is a decent way to put it. And if we use the town's resources and then try and charge it back to this project, I would need some guidance on how best to get that achieved. It's from a reimbursement standpoint. That's why I'm asking for clarity.
I don't want to speak for others, but I guess the impression I got from this conversation was there was concerns about the amount of the cost and also what this assessment would do from a timeline standpoint. And when we got around to talking about town tree crews, I guess the impression I got was that if we were trading, if we were absorbing the cost ourselves, we weren't going to get reimbursed, but it was a somewhat manageable cost. Could we do that and move up the timeline to keep everything moving forward? I guess that's how I was interpreting the line of questioning, but maybe I misunderstood.
If that's the path we're taking, that would be my hope as well, if that's the path we're taking.
I think I introduced that sort of sending you that way, Ryan. My concern was if the town did not wasn't reimbursed by the state, where does that take us? So that's where I was thinking, okay, do we still have to take this money out? In fact, I would be interested in keeping the 40-odd% that would be needed to be spent on the town's ticket rather than on ours. But I think that's another discussion. Are there any other questions about, yes, Steve?
Not a question. I'm in support of getting the arborist on board. I think as Tony and Kathy and Chris all mentioned, this is something we got to kind of keep moving, and we would want this for liability. So I'll even make a motion to approve the
Great.
hiring an arborist to assess the trees.
So we'll take that as a motion. Thank you, Steve. And we have a second from, I saw Chris McNabo and Kathy too, but that's a third. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of engaging this arborist, please signify. Are there any opposed? Thank you, Madison. Great, the motion passes. Thank you, Scott. Are we ready now to go back to your work, Al, your schedule?
Yes, no problem.
Okay.
All right, so on the screen right now is a map or a plan of the site. The bus loop is in gray above the yellow. That will be in place. We ran into a problem with the existing building. The timeline to do the abatement is more than the time we have during the summer to complete the work. Felicia, myself, and the abatement consultant reviewed the work, and he told us, a very aggressive crew working double shifts, it would be in excess of 10 weeks just to do the abatement, which is all the time that we have during the summer. So we needed to come up with an alternate plan to have the school open and have a parent drop-in in the morning and at night. So what we came up with is the yellow portion, which is the eastern part of the parking lot, could function as a parent drop-off area. The red lines would be, they'd come in on the right, go through that little turn, drop off their kids, and then proceed out. The work we would have to do to facilitate that, we would have to take the first addition, the southerly addition to the building. That can be done, our contractor said, rather quickly, like within 4 to 5 weeks, he can have that part of the building abated and demoed, so we can get this bus loop in. The dark blue area is the remaining building that would still need to be abated and demoed. And the light blue area, it would be our construction area, which would be fenced off. Any questions concerning this or comments?
Looks like you've either, oh, good. Chris, go ahead.
Looks like a good plan, Al, because you're gonna, the place you're putting the temporary bus loop will become parking area. So the material that you put down for the temporary loop could actually serve as perhaps a base for some of that work.
Correct. There will be additional parking and handicap parking just below the yellow in that long island. So yeah, it does give us extra parking there, plus the handicap parking that we would need. And I would hope that we would have at least a binder down, the first layer of the asphalt down. We'll temporarily stripe it for parking. And then once we complete the rest of the parking area, then we can just do one final layer over everything, so it looks brand new.
Al, staff parking while all this is going on?
Staff parking would be just below the yellow loop. There's a row of parking there that can be utilized by the staff, and we still have the baseball field parking the gravel parking at the baseball fields are also available for use.
Do you have a final timeline on when the building will be completely removed?
It's supposed to take us 10 to 12 weeks to do the abatement and demo. So it's going to be, I would probably say a month after school opening, we should have the balance of the building down. And then it will take us, I would say 3 to 4 weeks to finish up the parking area. We have drainage to put in there and everything else. So I would expect the parking area to be complete a couple of months after school opens. I would say October timeline.
Okay.
And Al, this is basically because it's not where we want it to be, more or less because of abatement issues.
Correct. And just the time, just the time to do the abatement. It's pretty complicated. There's a lot of the abatement is actually in the foundations and in the tunnels for the mechanicals. There's the black tar, black waterproofing material that is hazardous. So the whole foundation is hazardous. So that's why it takes so long. It will take so long to do the abatement.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Al. But was there anything else you need to tell us about, Al, or is that the extent of your question?
That's it. There's no change in cost or anything. This is, I mean, it's not perfect, but it gives you what you need to open the school, and it gives us time to finish our work properly,
Okay. Al, do you want to make any other comments on your current progress?
Sure. We started the demolition of the portables today. You probably got 2 more days and they'll be done. We started excavating the leaching field at the playground this week, and a couple more weeks that will be completed. All the galleys are on site, so we have all the material. The site contractor is currently stripping and removing the topsoil. He has a large crew of trucks coming in this Saturday to haul the remaining topsoil over by the transfer station. Site contractor is currently bringing the site to grade. We have very nice soil there. It's being tested right now. And I believe we got the test results back today, but I haven't had a chance to review them. We had rebar delivery yesterday. We're starting to excavate for foundations next week. And we'll start forming and pouring, hopefully pouring footings the end of next week. The site contractor has also started site drainage. He started in the south corner of the property where it has a detention basin there. And he's starting there and working his way out. So we got some good activity going on right now, and it will only get better. So,
great. You're feeling comfortable on the schedule at this point?
Yes.
Tommy?
When the footings are poured, it will show us the outline of the final building, right?
I'm sorry?
When the footings are poured, it will show us the outline of the final building, am I right?
Yes. But we normally do the footings and then we do the wall. Right now, we're going to be starting in area B, really AB lower level. So you'll see the footprint of the AB lower level first, then you'll see the gym portion, and then you'll see the admin wing A, which is last. So it's like a progression.
I would love to come see this thing rise up out of the ground.
Well, there is a camera mounted on the existing building that you'll have a pretty good timeline from that vantage point.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Welcome.
Al, I was going to ask you about the camera. Is it accessible now online? It's recording, I assume, and is it recording? Just constantly.
It's not our camera, but I heard from Ben, it's on the town website.
Yeah, Kelly, did you put that? Did your
Yeah,
IT?
it's up and active, and if you want to take a bird walk, I can show you how to find it.
Do we need to make a motion to take a bird walk? I do them without motions myself. Yeah, Kelly, that'd be great. I was curious enough to actually go down there myself today, and it was amazing to see what's happening.
So
All you have to do is go to the town's webpage. It's right on the front.
Okay.
Can you give me screen share?
Oh. No, I take that back.
So here's the school's website. And right here, view the recording.
Right.
Welcome,
So-
everyone.
Oh, wait a minute, wrong recording, sorry. Ah.
Mansfield's new Ella.
Because we want to see if Al got to work on time this morning.
So that, we're hoping to get a button here, but right now you can't get a button there. But you can go to the elementary school building project. Are you all seeing this?
Yes.
Okay. For some reason my internet's decided to be slow. Watch our school grow. And there you go.
Fantastic.
That is the live camera. Look, they're still working. Oh, those were the portables. So.
All right. Kelly, that was a great bird walk. I want to be in class. That's good. Okay.
I don't know how to stop sharing, sorry.
All right. Al, you're all set then? Okay, great. So Scott, that takes us back to you with the OPM update.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, so in addition to what we've already talked about as far as the tree coordination, we did attend. There was an OAC meeting this past Tuesday morning that we attended. In walking the site, I will say I was very impressed. The site itself was in terrific shape considering all of the rain we've had. I'm very encouraged by the existing material that the site seems to be draining very well, which bodes well for the project. So, overall, I was very pleased. As some of you may have seen, again, with the scrim and the fences that went up, Newfield is starting to coordinate and install the new septic field at the front of the building. And as part of that, it was unfortunate that when it was originally drawn and presented and approved by DPH and by the town, it overlapped slightly onto the existing walkway and into the bus turnaround area. So we've been working with Al and his team to try and minimize costs. That really wasn't something that was anticipated as part of the drawings, and we've been working to minimize the cost to restore that sidewalk. We've got to get that sidewalk put back because it is a phasing issue, and it's something that we've got to maintain for access to the school as well as the bus drop-off. And I can, again, if I can go ahead and share my screen, this is going to work. Doesn't appear to be. I'm hitting share screen, Tasha, but nothing's happening. Oh, there we go. Share. Okay, so can everyone see the screen now and see what you see here is these lines this is the outline of the new septic field, and you can see this is the old walkway
Scott,
and
excuse
bus
me,
drop off.
can you orient people with the road and so forth as well?
Yeah, it can. Unfortunately, the sketch isn't. But the road is here. This is the corner of the school, and this is Route 89 here. So the buses come in, they circle around, drop off the front of the school, and then exit. So the septic field is just to, if this was north, it would be just to the west.
Yeah, that little rectangle to the south, Scott, is the main entrance there. Yeah, right there is a canopy.
Yeah, this is the main entrance. This is the main entrance to the school. And again, this is Route 89. So, you know, it was unfortunate. We asked the engineers, we said, you know, could we at this point just slide this 10 feet back because we felt we had the room, but that would have opened up a number of permitting issues and other issues. So from a timeline standpoint, that couldn't be achieved. So we've again worked very closely, has modified the sketch to minimize the disruption or the restoration work from a phasing standpoint to keep this path back and restored for student access up to the school and bus drop off. And apologize, it's hard to hold the phone. All right, let's go that way. And so this proposal, again, this was part of the meeting packet. We were doing some final coordination along with the pricing, so we didn't get the final ones coordinated with Al until the end of the day. But the total amount for this work to get that restored and get the bus loop back and that sidewalk back is $4,159.64, so $4,160. So is there any questions on this work? You know, it has been reviewed by Jeff and his team and his engineers, and it has been reviewed by Colliers and our field staff as well.
Scott, my question would be how, I know these things happen, but how is this missed? Because it's like somebody messed up and we get the bill.
Well, I mean, again, I want to be in this one. This is subtle. I mean, having the field drawn in that it just encroached these areas, you know, had it been drawn 10 feet back. So again, it was a subtle mistake. I mean, things do happen. And again, you know, what we've tried to do here, and we didn't feel, you know, that we could force or pass this along to Newfield. We felt that it really was legitimate. They couldn't have anticipated that they'd need to restore this just by the diagrammatic line that was on the drawing. So we felt that it couldn't be anticipated and it would be fair to have them allowed to be compensated for this work.
The way it looks to me, if you could stick to that, it's the sidewalk is actually skirting it. Why is it necessary to have the sidewalk skirt the septic system?
But the sidewalk is the existing sidewalk is here, Chris.
Got it.
So with the installation of this, it wipes out your existing sidewalk, unfortunately. You know, again, had this line, and again, it was a very subtle thing that you know, no one picked up on.
I get that.
You know, had this field been drawn back here 10 feet back, we wouldn't have had this issue.
But I'm confused because why can't you put the sidewalk back? I wouldn't. I'm guessing you don't want the buses driving over it.
Chris, if I could just say something.
Please.
This is an existing bus loop with the sidewalk. We have to keep the school active for a year. So this is all going to be gone after, you know, when the new parking and everything's laid out and the existing school is down. So this is one of those issues that come up during phasing, and we all racked our brains on this to try to minimize anything that would have potential cost. And this is what we came up with. The sidewalk has to be there because there's certain distances from the bus turnaround and drop off for the children to make it safe. And if it snows, we got to make sure there's a sidewalk there that is a certain distance away, that's you know, protected from the elements somewhat, as far as the surface being concrete instead of gravel. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how we exhausted this problem, and I think we got a pretty good solution here.
Fine. I'm just curious as to why the sidewalk. You've got the sidewalk kind of making a little jog that goes around the septic system. why can't you do it right over the septics? Why does it make that peculiar jog? Why don't you just go straight?
Well, they're going to have to interrupt the sidewalk in that darker section of sidewalk. And we thought to save money, instead of encroaching all the way more in an existing sidewalk, since it's temporary, then we'll just have that jog. So we were trying to lessen the impact.
We did ask the engineers, Chris, if the sidewalk could be placed directly over. I mean, we would still be restoring the sidewalk, so there was some concerns of putting a new sidewalk that was paved over the brand new field as far as inverts, and then also then allowing bus traffic to come right up to the edge of that. There was a concern about imposed loads and potential damage for this brand new septic field.
And
so
when they
we
take it
did
out,
ask those questions to the engineers, and this was the engineer's recommendation to make sure that this new field is not compromised.
Correct.
Chris McNamara?
I'm just confused, not about the sidewalk, but about the change order. Is this change order 002 that we're talking about?
This is 002R, correct. 002R, yes.
Because on my sheet here that you sent out earlier, it said that was 6404.
Correct. There was an error in that. I grabbed the wrong one. I missed sending out the revised one. It has been updated now in the meeting packet folder, so the correct 002R has been added. I apologize for the error, but yeah, the correct number, right. We were able to reduce it almost, by a third, and now the cost is $4,159.64.
Can I jump in and explain the cost structure?
Sure, Al.
If you look at the dark shaded area, which is the bus travel, I'm assuming, the cost of this change order is to widen the bus loop at that area. They're moving the sidewalk out 5 feet. We have to encroach onto the island by 5 feet. So the cost of the change order is to widen the bus loop, repave it. There's also a catch basin there that the top has to be replaced. It's a curved basin top and it needs a flat top. So the cost of the change order is only to do the island work. I own the paving at the dotted line. That's my excavation. I own repaving that. So that's all in my bid. The extra work is just to widen, encroach into that island and replace that catch basin top. If that helps.
Thank you, Al. That's good.
Yep.
Scott, one other question. Maybe this is also for Charmaine. Does this come out of some sort of contingency? This seems like
there's a construction contingency. Again, that we'll be applying these to, and we can give updates at any time, to the committee. It's not something we typically do at committee meetings, but more with finance working groups and with Randy and selected individuals. But yeah, this is going to come out. We've allocated a construction contingency. We anticipate these types of issues. Things do happen as you go through construction. So this has all been planned for. We do have a contingency available, and this would be applied to that contingency.
Okay. Any other questions for Scott on this? Okay.
All right, and so there is one additional PCO that I would like to discuss, and again, it involves our septic field. There was, if you recall, I think at the last meeting we discussed two options. Because we're losing so much area for the students to recreate for both PE and in just recess periods, and we're getting the septic field, which is quite a large mass or quite a large block of the existing lawn area where the students can recreate, would potentially just be mud. There's no way you're going to get grass to grow quick enough for the kids to utilize that space. We had looked at two options that we discussed, I believe, at the last building committee meeting. One was to install a layer of stone dust over the existing leaching field, and then have that removed and the area regraded and seeded once the new building is opened up and there was more opportunities for the kids to have areas where they could recreate outside. The second option was to utilize mulch. So we reviewed both of those options with Kelly and her administration and Alan, and a decision or recommendation to this committee was they felt they preferred the mulch option over the stone dust option. So Al put together a proposal to bring in mulch, remove the mulch, and then he would, of course, under the base contract, regrade with topsoil and seed that area once the new building is open and they're finishing up their site work. The total amount of this is $17,146.23.
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, do we need to be concerned with like equipment driving over the leaching field? I know generally you don't want to be compacting your leaching area. So, adding mulch, we would need, presumably some type of equipment to spread it and then some type of equipment to remove it. I'm guessing this is not done by hand. Is that a concern? And do we need to talk to the septic people about that?
Well, I mean, Al, I think it would be appropriate if maybe you chime in, but I mean, normally once the septic field's in, they'd be backfilling it. They would be grading it anyway with topsoil and loam and seeding. So I would assume, lighter pieces of equipment with wide tires would be used. But Al, if you could expand on that, please.
Yeah, if they do the mulch, they'll do it with a small skid steer, which is not that heavy. The field is HS20 loaded, so equipment running over it's not. The equipment that we have, the smaller equipment, isn't a factor.
Al, could you explain that HS20, what that actually means?
It's a highway rating, and it's more of a heavy duty rating than a normal cast in place structure. They use a higher cement ratio in their mix, and it's reinforced differently. And it has a certain amount of weight it can withstand before it breaks. It's a much heavier breaking load than a normal precast concrete.
Okay.
And there's an H20, which is a little less. The HS is the highway loading, which is the best you can get.
And where was that spec'd? Is that something that Jeff and Richard would have spec'd, or their people would have spec'd out?
Yes, it's in the specifications.
Okay. Any other questions related to this? I've got another one then. No, what was it? Okay, so this is another case to me of, we're talking either the stone dust or, and how much was the stone dust? Is it 14,000?
The stone dust was 8,543, so approximately half the cost.
Okay, so $8,000, but neither one of these was considered in the beginning, is that right? Basically, we didn't think about kids having a place to play. I don't mean that in an unkind way. I mean, that wasn't something that was thought about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we thought about trying to maintain as much area as possible, but yes, identifying the need that, that this area would be unplayable at least until the spring, until grass established itself, was not anticipated by the team.
So it was subsequently, whatever, Kelly or whoever administrators said, oh, we need to find something. Is that kind of the right line of thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think it stemmed from the, the coordination, looking at the construction phasing, working with Newfield once they were on site, and certainly Kelly and her staff. I think it was identified that, we need to find as much area as we can for the school to operate in a reasonable fashion during the next year. And so, trying to come up with a creative way so that area could be utilized as soon as school started was critical.
Okay, thank you. All right, Scott, anything else OPM wise?
No, unless there's any further questions.
Any other questions? Looks like you're safe. Okay. Jeff, architects update.
Yeah, there's a few things here I'd like to bring you up to date on. One is if I can share my screen. Let's go this one. Can everybody see it?
Yep.
So I can enlarge it here. Let's zoom in here. Oh, I hate that. Okay. So there is a state of Connecticut DOT encroachment permit that we are applying for the site adjacent work here. The update I have from Fussen O'Neill is that the proposed work within this state of Connecticut right of way on Warrenville Road here, and this is basically right where the new bus loop exits onto 89. That includes the driveway parking installation, landscaping, utility, infrastructure, which is, they're titling it the encroachment permit that we have to apply for. So that's, as of today, been submitted, cover letter, all the supporting documentation, plans, everything have been submitted. The plan is that the DOT will review and provide comments and questions to the design team. And Fussen O'Neill, our consultant, will respond to the DOT comments in order to receive a letter saying the contractor can submit an encroachment permit to do the work within the state right away. Now, at the same time, Eversource met with Newfield on the site and actually had a suggestion, instead of going with overhead with the power lines here, and their concern was in the RFI, I have it just below there if everybody can see it, that they're suggesting that we eliminate the riser pole proposed to be at the end of the first baseline of field A, which is right here, and instead go underground and over to the west side of Warrenville. This would lessen public exposure to any hazards concerning the anchor, the guy wire, as well as overhead power line hazard over the bus loop and field parking. Attaches a markup of the drawing showing what was discussed at this meeting and highlights the proposed changes that could be made to this electrical service. Now, they also submitted this sketch, Eversource, of what they're suggesting that we do. If I can pan over here now. Let me zoom in now. So they're suggesting that we entertain the idea of going underground through here. So the thought was that since we're going for the DOT encroachment anyway, and this is in that encroachment, that we entertain the idea. Now, there was some discussion back and forth with the Colliers, TSKP, and Newfield about keeping everything as it is versus putting it underground. What are the implications? So what we decided was that we're going to have a meeting. Newfield scheduled a meeting next Tuesday at 9 a.m. with Eversource to define the scope so that Colliers can package it with the design team, and we can just figure out what implications schedule-wise, cost-wise, this may incur. It sounds like a great idea. It sounds like it potentially could be a safety concern. I mean, a lot of us are all for it, but at the same time, we don't want it to stop the project. So that's where we're at with that piece. The last item I want to give you a update on is the intersection improvements from SLR, basically, and they've been working with John Carrington in the town too on this to try to expedite that and get that resolved. But I guess evidently their COT-DOT's first review is completed in December of 2020. 3 more reviews have been completed by CT-DOT since then, with the last one being completed on May 19th of 2021. Everybody incorporated the comments provided on May 19th and resubmitted to the CTDOT. DOT indicated the plans were with the CTDOT District 2 office for final approval on June 21st of 2021. SLR checked the status of review with District on July 7th, which they replied they had never started their review because they did not have hard copies of the plans. SLR mailed the plans to District 2 on July 9th and still waiting to hear back. We have since then tried to follow up with John Carrington and District 2 to get a response. So nothing yet, but we're trying to be proactive and get these answers as soon as we can. It's frustrating, but I guess we have to wait on this.
Chris?
Back to the underground utility thing.
Yes.
That would be something we would be paying for. I mean, having to cross a state highway and dig it up and get a bond and yada, yada, yada. That's costly.
Well,
Richard,
that's
you
the
wanna
big,
respond?
go ahead, Scott. That's the big question, right?
Scott, you're
Scott.
quiet again. Might be Richard's turn. He had his hand up before.
I'm sorry, I was muted. No, go ahead, Richard.
Okay, thank you. So in answer to that question about cost, what we're talking about is two different areas. Jeff briefly went through the encroachment on Route 89 and the idea that Eversource would like to do, which is underground conduit, is one question. The other question that Jeff briefly went through has to do with the intersection improvements. That really has nothing to do with Newfield's contract. That portion of the project has not even been let out to bid yet. But let's go back to Newfield's contract. Newfield is under contract to make to have Eversource do the connection over the street, over Route 89. But in a meeting with Eversource out in the field, Eversource said, we really would like you to consider, for safety reasons, putting the conduit under the pavement. And then Eversource would later come back and run the primary conductors, the wiring, through that conduit and connect to a new transformer that would be on the site. So this has an impact on Newfield's contract because if we proceed with the underground conduit, then that affects their contract. It would be additional work for them to do that. So yes, that has an impact and a cost impact to this project. There's another component, which is the utility charges from Eversource to make the connection onto the site. Now, whether that's done through Newfield's contract or whether Eversource would charge the town separately, that hasn't been worked out. It could go either way. So the first question is, are we going to do an underground conduit as Eversource recommends? That's going to be the question on the table at Tuesday's meeting with Eversource. It would be nice not to make the change, but you're dealing with a utility company. So generally, utility companies prevail with what they want. This was discussed with Eversource during the design phase with Kohler Ronan, our electrical engineers. They did reach out to Eversource. They had proposed going overhead and everything was fine with Eversource at that time. But again, you're dealing with a utility company and you can't get anything in writing from the utility company in advance. And typically they rely on their field personnel to make last minute adjustments and changes such as this suggestion. So that's where we are. I predict we'll probably go underground. And then we'll have to ask Newfield to prepare a change order for the committee's discussion. This is time sensitive. It's critical. And I'm going to suggest that if possible, the committee have its change order committee available to review that change order that I expect we'll ask Newfield to prepare rather than waiting for the next full building committee. I don't have an order of magnitude. I don't know if Al is prepared to discuss order of magnitude, but that's going to be, I think, further explored at Tuesday's meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Yeah, no, and again, yeah, we agree. I mean, there's no information right now, so there's really nothing for the committee to base a decision on. There's a couple of critical components here. One, we do need to know what the connection fee is going to be, the utility connection fee, and if that changes, within the approach, and then certainly the costs. Our concern, even though this came in as an RFI and was a recommendation, we did not feel comfortable saying that to Eversource, no, we're just going to get back to you and say we want to proceed as originally designed, because as you know, Eversource is a monopoly and is departmentalized. This could go to their engineering department. The engineering department says, no, we just can't put the poles in there, come up with some other excuses. So, we felt it was very important to, work with Al and his team and with the design team, get a meeting scheduled with Eversource ASAP, get all the cards on the table, and clearly then be able to bring back to the committee what the option or options are so the committee can make an informed decision.
Okay. Scott or Al, do you have an estimate within $10,000 what this might cost in addition to whatever is budgeted?
I wouldn't even want to take a stab at it at this point, Chris, but we'll let you know as soon as we get that information.
Yeah, I do know it's not inexpensive to go across the state road. And that, you need police details. I don't think there's a lot of utilities in there. But just the fact that getting the okay from DOT to do a road cut, submitting the bonds and all that, it's more of a time thing for me other than the cost. Now, your CLMP costs will actually CLMP costs would go down because they don't have to work on the pole. They don't have to bring in another crew for that. Everything would come in underground and they'd have to just do the tie-in across the street. I would give you a credit for the one pole that's on site because it calls for us to supply and install that pole. So the electrician owns that in their contract. So you would get a credit for the pole, but then you'd get an ad for the conduit and the road cut, all the site work associated with it.
How large is the conduit that goes through? Like what's the total after whatever number of lines you're putting under?
It's usually 4-inch conduits and there's usually 2.
Have you guys ever done anything with horizontal drilling?
No, we haven't.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding this? Jeff or Richard, did you have anything else for the architect's update?
I just want to follow up on this.
Sorry, Tony has a question. I didn't see you, Tony.
Yeah, I have a question. Are we talking tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars? Tell me something about the range.
I would guess tens of thousands.
And Scott, would it be reimbursable?
Anything that's off-site is not reimbursable, so no. As soon as you get past your property line, yes.
Wow.
And certainly that is another factor that needs to be considered here.
Is there a piece of this that maybe we can get Eversource to do, a big piece? I guess we'll discuss that Tuesday.
We're going to discuss all that Tuesday. We need to know what Eversource's commitment is. If we're going to anticipate a change, we need to fully understand what their involvement is in either scenario.
Kathy, did you have your hand up? No, okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Steve.
How much say do we really have in this? Like if Eversource says this is the way we want you to do it, can we say no, or are we basically obligated to follow their directive?
I think we all kind of know the answer to that. They are a monopoly. I mean, the town is a very big client of Eversource's. We could discuss that and have a response come back through the town. But my gut tells me whatever way they ultimately really push hard is an approach we're going to need to follow.
Wow. Okay. Anything else? Or any questions, I mean? Okay, now back to where I was a moment ago. Jeff or Richard, did you have anything else you wanted to add to the architect's report?
I'm okay. Richard?
I just want to say, I think Newfield has done a really good job on this project. It's a complicated project every time you build a new building immediately adjacent to an existing building. But they have been coordinating so many submissions from its subcontractors. I asked then from Newfield to give me a printout of all the submittals meaning shop drawings and samples, everything that the architect, and mainly Jeff, has been reviewing. And they gave me, a 36-page printout in very fine print with 34 items on each page. That's 1,224 items of shop drawings that need to be reviewed. And Jeff has been keeping on top of them. But without this kind of sharing of information from the builder, from Newfield, it would be difficult to manage. So kudos to Newfield. They were brought on as low bidder, remember. They were not handpicked, but I believe very, very much that the contract has been, or the project has been benefited by an organization of Newfield who is willing to provide this information for us to coordinate. So thank you all.
Don't let it go to your head, Hal. We got plenty of work to do from here on out, though.
Okay. No, that's great to hear. And, we obviously want a team of all the players working well together, and it's really nice to hear that that's happening. Thank you. Thanks, Richard, for bringing it up, and thanks, Al, for what your team's doing. Okay.
So, Chris, there was item 7 on the agenda, and I think I can address that briefly. There was a question about slightly shifting the geothermal field, the well field, to keep it away from the walking and running path and a little further away from the wood line. There was a question as far as the survey and its location to one of the wells, because there has to be a minimum distance achieved of, I believe, 75 feet. But my understanding, I think as of yesterday, between the design and construction team, that issue's been resolved, that we're good. We can shift the field. The field won't impact then the running trail, and we're good to go, all steam ahead.
Terrific. Okay, that's not anything we need to act on in any case.
No. It was just an update. If we did need to show you the field, so it was just a discussion. But again, it's all worked out. You're you're not even going to know.
Yep.
When all said and done.
Okay. Unless there's something else in that, well, that's it. How about review and approval of project invoices? This is the part that
I think, Chris, before you get to that, if you did want to circle back, there were 2 PCOs that were discussed for potential action, which is that work at the existing bus loop.
Yes, okay.
Which was PCO 002R, and then PCO, I believe it's 00, it's either 5 or 6. One moment, please.
Okay. Mary looks like she's ready. She's ready. Go ahead, Mary.
I am ready. I would like to make a motion to approve PCO 002 dated June 9th, 2021 in the amount of $4,160 for coordination of the existing bus turnaround and walkways to maintain safe access of the walkway and drive affected by the installation of the septic field.
Thank you, Mary. Do we have a second? Chris, thank you.
Can we make
Did-
that R? I think that was 002R.
We got that right, Tasha?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
Thank you, Chris.
great. Any discussion, further discussion, I might say, on that, of approving this expenditure? Okay, all those in favor signify in some fashion that you approve. Terrific. Okay, any opposed? Great, it's unanimous. And then there was a second one, the one related to the mulch.
Correct.
Any chance you have something on that, Mary?
Yes, if I may. As a matter of fact, I do, Chris. Thanks for asking. I would like to make a motion to approve PCO 005R2 dated today, July 22nd, 2021, in the amount of $17,146.23 to place mulch over the new septic field to provide an appropriate area for student activities during construction due to phasing.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second on that one? Good, Kathy, thank you. Any further discussion? My question on that one would be, is there a reason? It just seems very expensive to me. And I'm wondering about using the material on site, and if those trees are inappropriate, that kind of tree is inappropriate for it, or what? Is this a special mulch with gold flecks in it? What's tell us about it.
I don't think the majority of the trees that were taken down are all off-site now. And then, you need to be very careful on what you mulch up if you're mulching up existing trees, because a lot of them contain poison ivy and things like that the kids wouldn't want to get into. So, Al, I don't know if you can comment on specifically where you're getting the mulch from, but this would be clean, certified mulch that would be appropriate for the student activities.
Yes, it's a landscape mulch.
Does that mean it's all dyed? Say no. You're not sure. You're silent. Al, we're not hearing you. And then we'll take a question from Chris.
Yeah, it's for 240 cubic yards of a brown mulch, landscaping mulch. So I'm assuming it's it's not dyed.
Good, thank you.
Or usually red or black.
Yeah, exactly. Chris?
I was going on that same idea, since it is quite a lot of mulch, can we repurpose it after it's removed in any way on the site, on the school site, after it comes off of the play field, or is it pretty much shot at that point?
It's a year old. You're gonna have some decomposition of the mulch itself. We wouldn't use it on site because when we get ready, that will already be a year old. So we'd want fresh mulch there. But you could take it and use it at somewhere else in town, for sure.
Okay.
It may, as part of the excavation process too. I mean, they're probably going to scrape a little bit of soil with it, which is going to get all mixed up into it. So, yeah, I would anticipate not only the breakdown over the year, the kids playing on it, but then, potentially during the removal, getting some of that dirt and things mixed in with it that, might be good for clean fill somewhere in town if the town needed some non-structural clean fill to dump in an area, but probably would be the best for new mulched beds.
Al, how many yards again was it?
240.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from anyone related to the mulch? All right, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor of this motion as Mary presented, please signify in some fashion. Great, thank you. Anyone opposed? I think that's everybody counted, so we're all good. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Great. So that brings us, Scott, unless I'm off, to invoices.
Correct. And I think Tasha distributed the invoice packet to the committee, I believe, yesterday afternoon. And I did also copy all of the invoices in the invoice packet into the share folder. So you could access it that way as well.
Do we want to pass a motion first and then ask questions? Is the more appropriate way to do
I'm
it.
happy to make a motion for our invoices.
I love your happiness. Go ahead. Mary, you're not coming through on the audio in the critical moment. And the suspense is killing us.
So
can you start fresh?
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to approve our monthly invoice packet for June, which is dated today, July 22nd, 2021. It includes invoices from CES.
If you're able to connect with it, it's at the 4th page is where the summary is.
I'll try again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we heard CES, and that's as far as we heard.
I think my my Wi-Fi isn't as strong here as it is when I'm home in Connecticut.
Okay. Do we have, Mary, thank you very much. Maybe we'll.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Try.
I'll try again and you signal me if you can't hear me, okay? So my motion is to approve our monthly invoice packet for June, dated today, July 22nd, 2021. It includes invoices from CES, College Leaders, in the amount of $48,699.72.
Okay, we're fading out again. We faded out. And I'm wondering if I'm looking at the wrong invoice packet because you said.
I'm sorry.
48,000, and I don't have a 48,000 on here.
That's
well,
the
Chris,
fee.
it is the invoices total $48,699.72, along with Newfield's application for payment, which totals $492,776 for a total of $541,475.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, that I concur with. Chris McNamara, would you like to make the motion?
Sure, I can make the motion. What Scott just said, or read the whole thing?
Why don't we make it one solid one, please?
Motion to approve monthly invoice packet dated today, 7/22/21, including invoices from CES, Colliers Project Leaders, TSKP Studios, WB Meyer, in the amount of $48,699.72, along with the Newfield application for payment number 1 in the amount of $492,776.10, for a total approval of $541,475.82.
Great. Thank you. Do we have a second? We do with Steve. Thank you, Steve. Any comments or questions regarding this invoice packet? All good? Okay. Let's vote. All those in favor of approving this motion as presented by Chris, please signify. Great. Mary even came up too. Good. Great, motion passes. Anybody counter, anybody against, nays? Okay, good, the motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you. And unless anyone has any other business, I believe that concludes our meeting, although I would like to talk with Ryan and Kelly if I could afterwards. We could have a brief meeting. Are there any other items? Okay, and I'm not sure how to go about this, but I would also like to move us toward being in person, which I think would be helpful, and for us to actually get back to the site at some point, perhaps as a group, to make it efficient for Al or whoever might be there to, or Richard or Jeff might be wanting to show us around. Chris, go ahead.
I just want to say that during the summer with people taking vacations and whatnot, if you want to get a quorum, it might not be an advantageous time to do that.
Right.
I hear what you're saying. I'd much prefer in person, but just knowing people's schedules, it's probably not the right time.
No, I agree. And as I understand, talking to Tasha about it, there's already a delay in just making it happen, and Randy not being here, I'm not comfortable doing it either. So it's at least a month away from now in any case. So, Tony?
You should know that the town is working on updating our technology so we can do hybrid meetings.
Great.
But that won't happen right away. It'll
Okay.
at least a month.
That's great to hear. Good. Thank you for that. Okay, any other last comments? Well, thank you all very much. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Kathy, thank you. And seconded by Steve. All those in favor? It looks like a majority. Madison's smiling. I don't see any other sig. There she goes. Okay, good. All right, well, thank you all very much. And if I could just meet with Kelly and, oh, Ryan's gone, so maybe not, but I'll talk with you, Kelly, if we could briefly afterwards. Thank you all.
Good night, everyone.